Usually 10 to 1.
Okay, any questions, comments, or anything like that? Seeing none, please call the vote.
Dr. Early,
Yes.
Mrs. Grunberg,
Yes.
Mr. Grunberg,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Rayford,
No.
Mrs. Richardson.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
Place a motion to approve the consent agenda as written, in its written form.
Support.
Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the vote.
Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Dr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Grunberg,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mrs. Rayford,
No.
Mrs. Richardson,
Yes, I approve and support A, B, and C.
Mrs. Grunberg.
Yes.
Okay, next we have superintendent's report.
Hi, good evening, ladies and
Gibson.
gentlemen of the board, as well as those of you joining us online and here in the audience. I'd like to start off this evening by congratulating Robert Roscoe for earning the Advocacy Skills Specialty Award and the Master Board Member Award. So if we could acknowledge Mr. Robert Roscoe this evening. Congratulations. Next, we have a diamond in our midst, and it is Dr. Geneva Early has received the Master's Diamond Award from the Michigan Association of School Boards. I'd like to take this time to congratulate Dr. Early.
Congratulations.
MASB offers a host of opportunities for board members to become to excel in the craft of being a board member. The audience might not know, but being a school board member is a complex and challenging public office to hold. And we are rapidly moving to having a fully certified board. I know our two board members, new board members, Cassie Gruenberg and Addie Richardson, are hard at work beginning to understand and learn more about what it takes to be a board member. And while we come and sit at this dais, there is a lot that goes on in the back. And so congratulations to Dr. Early and to Mr. Robert Roscoe. And we thank you for the time and dedication that it takes to complete this coursework. I always know when Dr. Early is taking coursework on MASB because the floodgate of questions starts to happen. So congratulations again. Congratulations and a huge thank you to Stephanie Jovanowski, who came and spoke at the board meeting last time, as well as Mr. Hicks, who helped, and Teacher Bex, put on the Visual and Performing Arts Extravaganza. We had music, middle school music, we had high school music, we had amazing visual arts on display. The pictures do not do the work justice. We are so grateful for the time and the talents of the staff who help to allow children to shine. And for those of you that don't know, I'm a former art teacher, so celebrating the arts is extremely important, and I believe we could be doing more in the way of celebrating the arts and music. Congratulations to the in-house scholarship award recipients. Last week, our top Eastpointe High School graduates were awarded a number of in-house scholarships. Students received $66,000 in in-house scholarships. These are created by community organizations, alumni of East Detroit High School, and they came to celebrate with us in the auditorium. I'm grateful to the board members who were also able to be present to celebrate our students. Over 140 Forest Park families enjoyed Muffins with Moms last week at Forest Park Elementary School. The students were so excited to have breakfast with their special guest. And I think you can tell from the pictures that the moms enjoyed being at school just as much as the students did. Thank you to the staff at Forest Park for taking the time to celebrate the relationships of grandmoms, moms, and guardians of students at Forest Park. Congratulations to the National Honor Society inductions. We had 12 new members added to the ceremony last week. Edie Cameron is in charge of the National Honor Society, and she did a fabulous job of welcoming students, as well as Brianna and Sarah Hall, who were the 2014 and 2015 valedictorians, came back to welcome students to National Honor Society. I did start the Superintendent's Council at the middle school. The staff of the middle school recommended students, and then the administration then picked a group to meet. We had our first meeting last week. It was a great opportunity to listen to students. One of the biggest takeaways from the time working with the students was how much they want to spend more time celebrating the human beings and the teachers who come to work every day. They, of course, also would like to see us continue to make improvements in the physical structures, and the ever popular is always improving the school lunches is a major concern of all the middle school students. The group will be reconvening. They had a little bit of homework to do, and we'll be reconvening in a week. Shamrock Sports, I'd like to congratulate the girls track team, won 3 MAC bronze relay titles in the 4x1, the 4x2, and the 4x4. The boys picked up a win in the 4x100 relay at the MAC Bronze Championship meet. In addition, we have the boys golf team won their first match since 2018, and they are coached by teacher and coach Brian Hugg. Great to see our students out on the green as well as being successful. And Gina, our female track athlete, almost made it to states. So congratulations to all of our athletes for their hard work and dedication. This evening, I'd like to invite 2 members of our Eastpointe Community Schools community to come to the podium. And first up, we'll invite Principal Denisha Malone, and it looks like she is traveling companions this evening. And I'll allow Ms. Malone the privilege and honor of introducing her traveling companions with an update to the Board of Education on Eastpointe Middle School. Welcome, Ms. Malone.
Are you going? Okay. All right. You can go on to the next one. All right, so we have so much to share tonight. There's never enough time, so we framed this presentation through the lens of our 3 overarching goals. And these are some goals that we've been working toward all year. So what we're going to highlight tonight in each section are how we've worked to meet those goals, and each of the sections will highlight with evidence some of our successes. It seems like it's out of order. Go on. So our first goal that we've focused on throughout the year is to build systems for high quality, equitable instruction that impacts student achievement. This is an overarching goal, and of course we've had sub goals under that. And so how have we achieved our goal? We like to believe that we've achieved that goal or worked to achieve it through consistent professional learning communities, professional development around engagement and instructional strategies, instructional planning sessions for our teachers, data analysis and discussion, and reflective practice and decision making. This is just a snapshot of our yearly PLC topics. You can't really see it, but you can see it's full of information. We're intentional about meeting collaboratively and providing the support that our teachers need all year. We've also had several in-house PD opportunities to build capacity in our ranks or within our ranks. We focus primarily on planning and engagement in the sessions, and both of these are key to student success. Here's an example of one of our sessions. Teachers were planning and developing around the 6E framework, which is sanctioned by the district. And here they were making connections to a planning strategy called Where To. So that's the next slide as well. In the next slide, you'll see that one of the goals of our math teacher, she brought the PD to life. Ms. Ruggiero, one of her goals was to implement student centers in the classroom, and that was to promote and heighten engagement and learning. So she took some risks. I think this was her first time running centers, and it was really successful. We've also engaged our teachers in focused PD and planning with their subject areas, and we had our instructional coach leading those, where subject area teachers were able to gain or get a planning day all day around an agenda where they looked at their curriculum, they looked at pacing, they looked at standards, and they created, and you'll see in the next slide, from those planning sessions, teachers began to map out their scope and sequences for their classes. We're going to revisit these before we leave for summer, but also when we come back in the fall so that we can begin planning we're going to start planning for semester 1 before we leave for the fall. Moving on, our second goal was to continue to build a culturally responsive environment, both academically and aesthetically. So we wanted to have it living and breathing through the curriculum, but also seen on our walls. And we did this by planning culturally responsive lessons through some of our Black History Month activities, and then also with having student work and displays reflective of mirrors and windows. So just some examples of how we did this. Art was one great avenue for promoting mirrors and windows and cultivating cultural responsiveness. And so here we have students working on freedom. During our Title I night, we put displays up for our students, and you can see a lot of reflection, but also they were learning a lot about others through the displays of their work. We one of our partners, I'll say, Education Impact, sponsored a Gallery of Heroes essay contest. We had over 99 students enter that contest. We held an assembly to celebrate the winners, and there were prizes from $25 up to $100 during this ceremony. We also held an MLK poster contest, and we had a student who won that. Her name is Alasia Earl. In March, we celebrated March is Reading Month through a door decorating contest, and you'll see that in the next slide. And just a few weeks ago, we had a visitor, Corey the Dribbler, a former Harlem Globetrotter, who told his story of triumph and perseverance to our students, and he also shared some tricks. You can see him dribbling like 6 balls. I don't know how he did it. One of our proud moments is this year we offered a computer science class with a young 21-year-old teacher who is phenomenal and brought her skill set to the class. So she has our students coding. They're learning the use of graphic design software. That Glow Party flyer was actually designed by one of our students, Ugatis Copeland, using Canva. And finally, our third goal, overarching goal, was to cultivate positive relationships and behaviors for all of our stakeholders. And we believe we've done that through increased community engagement, increased opportunities and experiences for our students, and staff culture building. In our next slide, you'll see that we've been consistent with our community communications and our regular crusader that goes out each month. Actually, the last number is a little bit higher since I did this. But some months, you can see people are going back multiple times, I do believe, and I provide updates sometimes so they go back for the updates. But we're tracking good numbers and getting that information out. We've held multiple opportunities for parents to engage with us. Our annual Title I meeting, of course. We held a cyber awareness town hall to help our parents understand the hazards of their students being online and on these phones. We had a semester update because we've had lots of changes with switching from hybrid to in-person instruction, and also had a mandatory parent meeting too. So we can go to the next one, and here's just a snapshot of a couple of our meetings, and Morgan speaking at one. And one of the things that we are really proud of this year is exposing our students to a plethora of experiences that help to create well-rounded global citizens. This has been at the forefront of what we do. So our students, they've engaged in a lot, I would say. Back in November, they had an opportunity to go to the DSO, the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, the Charles H. Wright Museum back in December. In February, they engaged, and you can probably go to the next slide, in PBIS field trip skating party. That was all rewards. In-house, our Title I Literacy and Science Night, where we actually had families sitting and playing games, some with teachers, and eating bugs and touching animal fur. It was a night. We've taken our students to Comerica Park in partnership with the Tigers and their Class Outside series. And they've had a ball and run of that stadium, which is beautiful. We were fortunate just a few weeks ago to receive a donation from Hillside Foundation. We were gifted with 2 outside basketball hoops, some equipment from the sporting company, and also some games. And that was featured in one of the newspapers. And also those games, students have already broken them open and they're enjoying them. We had an M-STEP incentive, so this was one of the afternoons where students were able to come down, play games, have ice cream, and just enjoy themselves for great attendance and behavior during testing. And just recently, I think just last week, we had our students at Mosaic Youth Theater at the Detroit Institute of Arts, and I think for some it was their first time going to that beautiful place. And finally, we focused on building positive staff culture. I was fortunate enough to have the McKinney Foundation gift us with some tickets to a Detroit Pistons game, so some of the staff went out and celebrated one night. Teacher Appreciation Week, of course, and we make a regular habit of highlighting our staff at PLC. So there we have Mrs. Askew being recognized for Teacher of the Month, I believe. And finally, this is our theme for next year. We're stepping into success. And this logo was designed by one of our 7th grade students, Brandon Christian. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned a little bit about us.
Ms. Malone, would you stay at the podium,
yes.
please, and entertain any questions from the Board of Education?
Yes.
Does the board have any questions about the middle school academic program?
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say, wow, I started writing, but I couldn't keep up with all that.
Thank you.
Success. I mean, great job.
Thank you.
I like the unity and the involvement you have with the kids going outside and a lot of things that they're taking part in.
Thank you.
I really appreciate the arts that y'all have included, not just one particular art, but several different things that's really giving them some good exposure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Malone.
Thank you.
We appreciate
Thank
your
you.
presentation, and thank you, Ms. Turner, for being Ms. Malone's back.
Thank you.
Next up, as part of the superintendent's report, I'd like to welcome Eastpointe's Community Schools District Librarian, Patrick Taylor.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Taylor, if you don't know me. I am the district librarian. I'm also the EL and bilingual education coordinator. And I'm just here to talk to you guys tonight about some of the cool things that have been happening as I've been rebuilding the library programs since I started back in 2019. So this will cover all 6 of our school libraries. Here's just kind of getting us started, some pictures of just different and dynamic things that have been occurring, some student learning, some decor, book fair, being awarded some different grants, and just generally showcasing what all the different things that we've been working to rebuild over the last several years. So,
I just want.
oh, there we go. So, in terms of just some of the noteworthy key points that have happened since I've been in my role. Some of you may remember I came to you back in 2020 to request that we adopt the Destiny Library Manager catalog system for our libraries. At that point, we had our 4 elementary schools were on an entirely different system that really wasn't functional than what our middle and high school are on. So we had some better continuity and consistency from that. Right from the start, I formed a partnership with the Eastpointe Memorial Library in the form of our virtual library card program. Sue Todd, who's the director, was actually one of my professors in library school. So it just kind of worked out when I started in Eastpointe that she was there and I had someone to collaborate with. That virtual library card, if you're not aware, gives our students, all of our students and staff, pre-K through 12, access to the digital resources that the 21 public libraries in Macomb County offer. Things like Overdrive for ebooks and audiobooks and magazines, tutor.com, which is just a really awesome platform and program that we have available to our students. I've started building out several different pages on the district website under the library, under the department section under libraries, just to get the information out there. Coming back to that single source of truth idea that we had when we went into all the COVID stuff. In November of 2021, our superintendent was given an award by our State School Library Association for her support to our 6 school libraries. And from then, we sort of built a relationship with Dr. Kafi Kamasi, who's at Wayne State University in the School of Information Sciences, in her RUSL project, RUSL standing for Restoring Urban School Libraries. So Christy and I actually were able to attend the showcase last year for that. They wanted to include us because what we're doing currently with our library program in the district is what they were aspiring to do with that pilot project. And that was taking place in Harper Woods and River Rouge. So very similar student demographic makeups and populations of the community in general. And then some other things that have just kind of worked out really nicely is the implementation of Clever, which is a single sign-on platform, and that was a long haul to get there. We've started to work to centralize and control our asset management and curriculum from the district level using our library catalog system. Elementary and secondary buildings have acquired ebook platforms, Tumble Books at the elementaries, Team Book Cloud for the high school. We've done a lot of work with ESSER allocations, which I'll talk more about in a second, and just grants in general. One of the things that was kind of cool that we just received was from the Gay Lesbian Straight Education Network, GLSEN. We were awarded for the 2nd year in a row what's called the Rainbow Library Grant. And what that is a mini collection of LGBTQ plus affirming books for our secondary students. kind of a snapshot of what's been going on with the collection and circulation at our schools. Really, the main takeaway here is that, and on the next slide, is that we've been adding more and more new books all the time, spending that ESSER money, really trying to foster more sustained readership in our students. And one thing that I noticed as I was looking at these statistics is with Forest Park, Crescentwood, and Bellevue in particular, the circulation this year has amounted to about 50% of the historical circulation since 2020. And so the thing that tells me that what we're doing right now, the purchases that we're making, are working to get our kids to read more. And this is the same for the high school, in middle and high school. We've been adding to the collection, and we're continuing to add more and more. And then I didn't, for the high school, the statistics were a little bit skewed due to some inventory issues from, I don't know, like 6 years ago, when they eliminated a lot of the nonfiction books in that building. But that will be remedied soon. You can skip that. Just pointing out some of the different things that have been added to our library, the library section on our website, information about the virtual library card, information about our staff, my personal recommended reads, the policies and documents that go with our school libraries, support for instructional technology for our staff in the form of tutorial videos. With the ESSER funds that have been allocated to our libraries, we've added a subscription to Junior Library Guild, which provides our libraries with current, up-to-date books every month. So we signed on to a tier subscription with that, a 3-year subscription with Team Book Cloud and Audiobook Cloud for the secondary campus, ordering 3D printers for the middle school, Bellevue, and Pleasant View. And one of the cool things that has come from that is the 3D printer at the middle school is all set up and has been running. And Jerry Kaminsky, the media paraprofessional there, and Rich McDonald have been printing human anatomy. And I can kind of let you guys take a look at it if you want. Please do. But it's just crazy how much detail goes into that. Yeah. And what a cool way for our kids to learn about anatomy. And when I went into the middle school this morning, they were printing a puzzle with the puzzle pieces were different parts of the anatomy. So just bringing that learning kind of to, artificial life. But each of the schools has received a wide format poster printer so that we can celebrate and design different things to have around our buildings, and not have to so often when we're a classroom teacher, we're spending money, sometimes money out of our own pockets for classroom decor, and this is just one way of being able to provide our staff and students with a way to kind of make the classroom a little bit more lively, a little bit more decorated. In addition to the Junior Library Guild subscription, I've spent about $33,000 on new books, which it's very much needed. I know Christy has said before, the high school library collection in particular is just very out of date, or was very out of date. It's getting better now. I purchased some broadcasting equipment to restore that programming at the middle and high school. So that's something that would hopefully be starting back up next year. And we are upgrading our library catalog system again to better centralize our asset monitoring and security of curriculum materials. So these were going to be all before pictures, so you can kind of see before we come back in the fall. The the change that's going to happen. So that's Crescentwood up top. I didn't have a chance to get a picture of Forest Park because I wanted them all in that panoramic style. But the next page, you'll see there's Bellevue and Pleasant View, and then the middle and high school. And just on the surface, things look okay, but they're going to look so much better. And it's so exciting for our kids. These are just some next steps that I've had in mind. Things that have been just been in the works in general. So restoring that broadcasting program, more programming from the library at the secondary level, additional authentic and STEM-based learning opportunities, and of course, more collection development. Down the road, I would love to develop a library at the Early Learning Center too. Just some more pictures. The picture in the bottom right corner is actually, that's me presenting at the Michigan Association of School Libraries Conference this past year. And that kind of segues into the last little bit of what I'm briefly going to talk about, which is our EL and bilingual education program. So what I think is probably most fascinating about this whole program is the demographic breakdown of our students that are enrolled in these services. Because it's pretty unique and not really what you would think when you think Metro Detroit. So our top linguistic population of English language learner students is Wolof. And if you're not aware of where that language comes from, it is Senegal, actually. In Senegal, they also speak French, but in the home, most families speak Wolof. And a lot of our students who come from Senegal come over to the States having never learned French. So it's I've just always thought that was really interesting. And historically, we've seen a large Hmong population, and that's starting to dwindle down. But in the last 2 years, we've seen a rise in Arabic-speaking and Bengali-speaking students. This is just kind of an overview of the different things that we do to help our students keep on track with language acquisition in terms of English language and academic language. So we have supports for them in place through our multi-tiered system of supports. From the Macomb Intermediate School District, we have a bilingual instructional assistant who comes to our different schools and works with our students either one-on-one or in small groups. And then we have all kinds of supplemental programs to help them bridge that gap too. In terms of, so we also have assessment to help monitor the progress that they're making. WIDA is the big one. That's an annual test that measures language proficiency. And then there's also, but within all the other assessments that we give, we disaggregate the data from, to shine light on that population of English language learners. And again, some next steps, continuing our partnership with the ISD, building on our MTSS program, more professional learning and development, taking a look at English language development standards and how those translate to Common Core and all the other standards that we follow and adopt as a district. And this is just a bunch of definitions and acronyms, but we don't really have to go over that. And that's all.
Thank you so much, Patrick. We appreciate you taking the time to update the Board of Education as well as the community on the work that you've been supporting, leading. We're very excited about all the summer construction that will be happening at all of the libraries throughout the district. Carpeting, furniture, book purchases, I can't wait to see the after pictures when we invite you back in the fall to show off to the Board of Education and the community the investment that the district has made using the ESSER dollars. And the board doesn't want to give up the brain and the heart, but if you would get the brain and the heart, there may be some folks in the audience that would like to check them out. Board members, do you have any questions or comments at this time for Patrick?
I just wanted to know, Patrick, I'm very amazed at that. It's like CAD, computer-aided drafting?
Yeah.
That's one subject I studied. It just amazes me how we can use that to pull out those schematics from the computer. I used to do it by hand. But yeah, what type of material is that though?
So it's a spool of filament, and it's labeled as PLA, although admittedly I don't know what that means.
It's a plastic.
It's a plastic filament.
Okay. Thank you.
I just wanted to say the last slide where it had the alphabet soup is what I call it, because it's that. Thank you for including that, so people can know what,
Right.
you know,
Right.
what the things are, what they stand for, because a lot of us don't know.
Well, and there's just, I mean, we're in education, so there's like a million different acronyms for
Exactly,
everything.
so it's appreciated, so don't just flow over it. That is very appreciated, and you have done a great job. And I remember when the library transition happened, and you have been doing a wonderful job.
Well, thank you.
I just want to thank you for being current, bring all our libraries current in the book reading and the books and the material that you bring. And I also want to say you're doing a wonderful, great job, and we commend you. And one more question. Is that really John's brain?
Probably works better, probably functions.
You
a little
didn't hear
better,
it, but I turned to the board and said, now I found John's brain. But I
Well,
just
thank you.
Are you done, Robert? Okay, I just wanted to say it's amazing that you've brought us our technology up with the libraries. It's great. I can't wait to see some of them. Thank you.
I was just wondering, what are some of the, because, you said you wanted to increase readership from the students. Obviously, you want them in the library more.
Yeah.
A couple things. First off, what obstacles are you seeing? Do you see out there some of the major obstacles as far as what's kind of keeping kids from being in the library as much as they used to be? Because I remember going to the library quite often when I was a child, even to the public library outside of school. And I don't know if I see it as much these days. Are you seeing less of it than it used to be? And are there obstacles, you think?
So I think in terms of obstacles, the biggest one was that we just had all six of our libraries, our collections were just so out of date, out of touch with what our students want and need. Our kids need to be able to see themselves in the literature that they read, and that's how they sustain that for life. And so the collection development piece has been huge. And I remember the first year that I was in the district, I did some minor collection development at the high school, just to bring some current titles, urban, realistic fiction, that sort of thing. And I remember our circulation went up by 433%. And now the other obstacle now is, I guess, coming back out of COVID and getting people back into the swing of visiting the libraries. So, like, for example, I want our middle and high school ELA teachers, like the elementary schools do, to be on a fixed schedule where they have like a routine where they come to the library, once every 3 weeks, once a month, and also have that ability to drop in.
But you clearly are seeing the more modern our
Yes. So,
our
yeah.
literature becomes, the more interest there is from our students. It was clearly outdated.
Yes.
And so we're updating that. And as well as, obviously, everybody's talking about how the
Aesthetics.
libraries are going to look
Yeah.
in another year. I mean, the after pictures are probably going to be remarkable as well, too.
That's the hope, yeah.
Just a fantastic job. One last one, access to the library. Do we currently only have access to our libraries during the school day, and then the public libraries with the kids access in the evening after school?
Yes,
Do you have any kind of partnership with them? Do you work with them as well?
With the
With our
public library?
with our public library as well, too? Is there any kind of coordination there at all, or?
Well, we have that virtual library card program, but in terms of in-person programming, that hasn't been something that I've looked into much, but it's definitely something I can look into, and I think that's a great idea. And I'm fortunate that I also happen to work really well with Sue Todd. And she's always been receptive to different ideas I have in terms of bridging that partnership between the schools and the community library.
Yeah, I just remember back when I had research paper at that school, high school, a long time ago, knowing where and when the libraries were open was important because you needed to garner the information in order to do your work. So having public libraries, because quite often it wasn't even the school library, because that was only available primarily during the day. But at least we knew, and I know the county library was out in Mount Clemens area, and I used to have to run up there because it was the only one that was open on a Sunday, I believe, at the time. I don't think it's open on Sunday anymore.
I think that was prior to Google.
Yeah, probably prior to Google. Google probably changed a lot of that. But anyways, just a remarkable job you're doing, and I can honestly say that since you've been here, drastic change in the way our libraries, the information they have, and the way that they are looking, and
Thank you.
job well done.
And many other schools have asked us, how have we been able to support a district librarian? And we utilized our Title IV funds for well-rounded children to hire a district librarian. Board Member Rayford, you had a question?
Well, I just have a statement. Basically, thank you. In light of all the school districts across the country trying to ban books, that you're encouraging kids to read on all levels. So
Hear, hear.
I really appreciate that as an avid reader.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
we haven't had a challenge yet.
I got one last question. With the virtual library card, do the kids know how to access that?
So, yes and no. It's been a while since I've gone in, and since I've pushed into classes to revisit that. Although I did do some of that with the high school earlier in the year. In particular, Amanda Fraley and Flora McCavick invited me into their classes. But it's the information for how to access that is all on the district website under the library section on its own page for the virtual library card. There's even like a screencast video that shows them specifically how to get into Overdrive and tutor.com too.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patrick Taylor. We appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to be with us and to share more about the work of the libraries in Eastpointe Community Schools.
Thank you.
Upcoming events, May 24th, I hope you're planning to join us for Pleasant View's Spring Play. It is at 5:00 p.m. at Eastpointe High School Auditorium. On May 26th, Bellevue Elementary School will be hosting its second grief walk for students. Members of the community are welcome to participate. Please reach out to Bellevue Elementary School if you'd like to participate in the grief walk, and the social worker Debbie Threet is organizing that event. May 26th is our last day for our seniors. June 1st will be commencement. We are back at the Macomb Community College Sports and Expo Center for this year's commencement. We do have a Gleaners distribution on the same day, 9:30 a.m. at Eastpointe Middle School. June 6th will be our last day of school for our GSR preschool students, and June 16th will be the last day of school for our students. It is a half day. Please also know that programming at the Boys and Girls Club kicks off on June 20th. The district has a partnership with the Boys and Girls Club, and the Boys and Girls Club is holding spots specifically for Eastpointe Community Schools students. Please reach out to the Boys and Girls Club or your school to get more information about how you can have your students involved in lots of summer activities. We also have a Title I summer school that already has a wait list of children and families wanting to get into our summer program. So I encourage all of you families to please reach out to the Boys and Girls Club and to your local school to get involved in all of the summer activities. If you are a student who is behind in credits, Eastpointe Community Schools also offers credit recovery to any high school students, and you do not have to be a student here at Eastpointe. We do have a number of students from across the region that come to our summer program to recuperate credits. And we have a great deal of gratitude for the teachers that do that. I get many phone calls at the end of summer from other high school parents in the region, grateful that we offer this credit recovery program and allow their students to get back on track. Thank you so very much for the opportunity this evening. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Okay, before we move on, I'd like to make a motion that we change item 7 and remove the word first, because there is no longer a second. Well, and then I'd also like to, well, okay, you supported that? So she supported that. And since I get first, I'd also like clarification, because we voted on and approved a couple changes earlier. Did you intend for those to be permanent or just for tonight? Okay, I'd like to include that in part of my motion, that the change that I'm proposing now, plus the ones that Dr. Early made earlier, that those be made permanent changes. And that from now on, we will have one hearing of the public, and it will be at the beginning of the meeting, as it is now.
So you made a motion. Dr. Early, do you support
The change.
changes?
Yes.
Please call a vote.
No.
Dr. Early?
John first.
I made the
You
motion.
made the
Oh,
motion.
I'm sorry. John?
The guy without the brain, remember?
Mr. Grunberg?
Yes.
Dr. Early?
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mr. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mrs. Rayford? No. Mrs. Richardson?
Yes. What, as far as the hearing of the public? Oh, the amount of time? No, that all stays the same. It just goes to 1 instead of 2.
Legal is 3 minutes.
No, it's going to stay at 3 minutes. Yeah, the way it's always been. I'm not proposing any change to that.
So, yes, sir. Ms. Richardson? Yes or no? You vote yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Grunberg?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Hearing in the public, we'll open that up at 7:19. Does anyone wish to be heard? Okay. The gentleman in the back was up first, I'm sorry. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
John DeHunt, Eastpointe resident, alumni, 1989. Mr. Librarian, you make me regret and miss the card catalog and the other. To the principal, to the middle school, I have a phenomenal acronym for you, TEAM. Together, everyone achieves more. Feel free to use it in future sessions. I think this is the second time I've actually spoken in front of the school board. Actually, I take that back. The first time was during the Voice of Democracy, and unfortunately, 3 of those people got taken away for fraud. That goes back to the ill-fated bond scandal so many years ago. I'm here to say it is awfully difficult to say things that people don't want to hear. Deeds, actions, if you don't go with the flow, you suddenly become an outsider. And what's bringing me to saying this is I have to applaud the students at the high school for their peaceful public protest. Peaceful, respectful, and it seems amazing to me. You cannot get 2 teenagers to agree to anything, let alone 100 willing to go out and support this lady. I don't know her. I don't know of her job performance. You know, I read what I see in the newspaper. But nobody is going to convince 100 children, students, teenagers, to go out and peacefully protest. Nobody has that power. They had the power. And it is very impressive to me that this lady, for whatever her job is, she fostered and engendered the respect of those children to stand up and say, "You're wrong." That is a very difficult thing to say in this life. People don't want to hear dissension. People don't want to hear opposing viewpoints. I disagree with going down to only one hearing of the public. Being on the Planning Commission, I have a number of residents that like that second bite at the apple, especially if we do something that they don't agree with. So I think that's a mistake. But please, applaud these children who have the guts to stand up and say, you made a bad decision for whatever reason, and that they have the integrity to do what they did in an amazing way. Dr. King did some amazing things peacefully, and if you haven't been to DC, you need to go and see the King Memorial. It's absolutely stunning, on a side note. I think every child in a middle school or high school should at least make that trip once to Washington, DC. So thank you for giving me the time to vent, but please respect these children, respect anybody that voices opposition, because just going with the flow doesn't work. Thank you.
Thank you. That was 2:55. You got a clock on your head, don't you? Pretty good.
Good evening. My name is Amelia Ritter. I go to Eastpointe High School. I'm an 8th grader. I just wanted to address a few things to the board tonight. I have been hearing a tad bit of accusations about who has made up the protest. It was this one. It was all this one. So if you're going to blame anybody, blame me. It was this one. Ask anybody. It was me. I'm definitely the one who made up the protest. It was nothing to it but to do it. The protest, it was just something that I was thinking, and I was just thinking, like, what could I do to make our voices heard? Because I know I was not going to be able to get all these kids at a board meeting for a half an hour. So I was like, you know what? We're just going to do a protest. And we did it for 5 days in a row. And it went very successful. And it was just very, it was stressful, but you still have to put the effort into it for you to get high schoolers out of classrooms, to get 8th graders out of classrooms. It was very disruptive. Now, I could say it was very disruptive, but it was straightforward. And I think I did an amazing job with getting all those, at least 100 or more kids out of their classrooms during 6th hour and got them back into the building, got their stuff, and got out. I think that was my main objective, was to make their voices heard, because she has earned respect from a lot of people. A lot of people, and as you can tell, I was very emotional at the last board meeting, but I think I got my emotions all correctly. But she was very, very respectful, and you can't really get over it, 5 principals in 5 different years. It's ridiculous. And she was the one that was most determined to the school. So that's what I really wanted to get out, and the motive was for the kids to come and be heard and not come out there to play and not do anything like that. It was simply walking. It was peaceful. And that's what I wanted to address to you guys. So thank you so much for letting my voice be heard.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else wish to be heard? Seeing none, we'll close that at 7:36. Or 7:26, I'm sorry? 28? I'm gonna use my own clock. Anyways, 7:25. Next item on the agenda is discussion action curriculum 2023-24 district calendar.
All right, good evening, Board of Education and Community. Tonight, the Curriculum and Instruction Office is seeking approval for the 2023-24 calendar, which is a manifestation of teamwork from representatives throughout our district. Our team met over the course of the last 2 months, reviewing data and establishing the following priorities. We wanted to limit half-days because they typically have lower student attendance, increase professional learning to continue to support and grow staff, especially at the beginning of the year, alignment with the Macomb and Wayne County common calendars, being conscientious of breaks that may be more helpful or appealing to families and teacher schedules, and taking the testing windows into consideration with card marking instructional time and professional development. So we're proud to present a calendar that hits the mark on all of these areas. The start date for teachers will be August 23rd. It will have 2 days of district PD, and then students will start on August 28th. Buildings will host curriculum nights in September and then conferences in October. We will have 5 professional learning days by January in just the first semester. And that supports the implementation of curriculum and the priority of professional growth upfront in the school year, which was a big topic for teachers that we heard this year. Our breaks align with the county for holidays, and we will have 1 more professional learning day in April, which is critical for the state mandated training that has to take place prior to the testing window. So teachers won't have to do it on their own time or during PLC, which is protected instructional time. We're gonna put that day right before the testing window to accommodate training for those state mandated tests. The last day of school will be Thursday, June 13th, and that will give us a total of 184 student learning days. I really commend our team for the time and effort that they put into this work. Specifically, thank you to Laura Burns, Stephanie Van Herentz, Mary Jane Sonk, Wendy Orris, Tricia Dickens, Valerie Jens, Lisa Petrella, and Heather Turner. It's our hope that this calendar will support students and staff in structuring what will be a great year to come, so we're excited to present this to you tonight. Any questions?
Place forth a motion to approve the 2023-24 district calendar.
Support.
I don't know. We see these calendars every year, right? And we plan them out, but I'm just thinking somewhere down the line, something's gonna pop up, right? And I'm just wondering who's gonna buy the board a lunch if we have to approve another one.
Oh, they will.
Okay,
I mean, if we have to approve a change, who's gonna buy the board a lunch?
I'll own it.
No, I'm just saying, I know, and we do our due diligence and we try to plan this out, but there is a tendency, this may have to be a small revision somewhere down the line, something will come up.
Yeah, and that's why.
Sometimes.
Go ahead.
That's why I want people to understand that even though we do approve this, and it's somewhat written in stone, sometimes things change where we may have to change the start time on a particular day or something like that.
Or
It does
legislative
happen.
changes, or the testing schedule was just finalized a few weeks ago. So there are unforeseen circumstances that may cause us to request a change, but we'll try to make sure that we don't have to.
I was just trying to bring it up in a humorous fashion, that's all.
Dr. Early, did you have a question about the calendar?
No, I was gonna ask, the start date is the 28th. Is this with a waiver or without?
We are on a waiver. We are on year 2 of a 3-year waiver. We reapplied last year and extended our before Labor Day start. We found that the before Labor Day start helps us to better align between the 2 county calendars that we find ourselves wedged between.
Anything else?
I just had a question. Are they going to still have late start Wednesdays?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, we are continuing that for professional learning communities.
Okay.
Please call a vote.
Mr. Roscoe.
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mr. Gruenberg.
Yes.
Dr. Early.
Yes.
Mrs. Rayford.
Yes.
Mrs. Richardson. Mrs. Gruenberg.
Yes.
Okay, next we have business operations. Recommendation for vendor for district technology support contract.
Good evening. Our contract with our current technology service provider, all covered, expires in June. And as a result, we went out to bid. Proposal was put together by our technology coordinator, Danny Latham, and our E-rate consultant company.
Mr. Carlesso, could you turn your microphone off and move to another microphone?
Yeah, I turned
Okay,
it on and
thanks.
off. Yep. So the bids were analyzed, and there's a side-by-side comparison chart in your paperwork where it lays out the features of each contract. It turns out that UTEC actually offers more services in their annual contract than All Cover does, and the price is slightly cheaper than the All Cover contract. The price for a 5-year contract for UTEC is $2,146,980. And that compares to $2,149,514 from All Covered. So after this analysis, Mr. Latham is recommending the award of a 5-year contract to UTEC. I concur with his recommendation.
I had one question. I can't remember the term right at the moment, but it was regarding blocking the additional software to be added to the system. So my question is that going to inhibit teachers in any way of using online platforms that they may be using in the classroom?
It should not inhibit. I mean, if there's a district standard that have to be followed, but
And right now, the district technology whitelists the approved vendors. So they whitelist them so that teachers can access them.
Ready for the motion? Place forth a motion for vendor for district technology support contract. Recommendation?
Support.
Please call the vote.
Mr. Roscoe?
Yes.
Ms. Rayford?
Yes.
Mr. Gruenberg?
Yes.
Dr. Early?
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mrs. Richardson? Mrs. Gruenberg?
Yes.
Okay, now we have a recommendation for getting rid of some obsolete school furniture and equipment.
yes. The district has started last year. We went, our operations staff started cleaning out the warehouse, and they got a significant amount of equipment that was from the maintenance department out of there, but there's still a lot of space being taken up by obsolete technology equipment. Old printers that don't work, monitors, old devices that are outdated and can't hold software anymore, the newer software. So Mr. Latham, our technology coordinator, contacted a vendor who could properly dispose of this stuff, because sometimes it contains chemicals that we can't just put these things in dumpsters, but they have to be wipe clean data and any hazardous materials removed from them before, so they can be disposed of legally. In addition to that, we also have some furniture that we're rotating out of the district, such as the old library equipment. This summer, we're getting new furniture in our libraries. We have to do something with the old equipment, and we hope to be ordering new classroom furniture soon, and we'll have to do something with the old classroom furniture. It's obsolete. But like we did for last summer, I'm proposing that we put this stuff on an online auction where the public, community members, other school districts, just anyone in general can bid on these items, and if they're not sold by auction, that we dispose of them either as scrap or just dispose of if we can't get any money for them otherwise. The board policy requires that that this plan be brought to you periodically, and that's what we're doing this evening.
Is there a motion to approve the plan?
So moved. Support.
Okay, it was Rayford and then Roscoe.
Yep.
Okay. You guys got any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, so do I. Go ahead.
I was wondering if, like, if it does not sell on the auction, is it something that we can offer to some of our parents that they might want for some of their kids? Like a bookshelf or a desk?
I think so. I mean, we have to have like limited hours and have it staffed somehow. And there'll probably have to be a waiver that's signed that this is not liable if someone gets hurt using this equipment.
Yeah.
What happens when we use the auction company, the prices are exceedingly generous to low cost. And the auction company then assumes a lot of the liability so that the district doesn't have a direct one-to-one correlation. So our preferred method would be that we use the auction company for that. The consumable items such as books or things that would have less liability, many of our schools will give away those items as part of the changing of materials.
Okay, the question I had, you said this was going to be an online auction, right?
It is on.
Now, the question I have stemming from that is will we have the link to that on our webpage as well, too?
We can do that.
Yep, we would provide that
webpage.
link out.
Okay.
We've used in the past a company called Bittergy, who creates an online store of all of the items and then markets it to a wide array and a wide audience. We will publicly share that link and put it on our Facebook and on our webpage as well.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, that's all. Anything else? Please call the vote.
Mrs. Rayford,
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mr. Grunberg,
Yes.
Dr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes, Mrs. Richardson, Mrs. Grunberg.
Yes.
Okay, next we have Board of Education, resolution designating electoral representative for the June 5th, 2023 MISD biennial election and identifying the candidate the board supports. Okay, I would like to move that the board identify Mike Schulte and Brian White as the candidates that the board supports. And as part of the motion, I would also like to have Cassie Grunberg designated as the person who will vote on behalf of the board, and that Dr. Shaniva Early will be the alternate. And that Miss Addie Richardson will accompany whichever one goes.
There we go.
Support. Second.
It was Early and then
Early in.
C. Grunberg.
Okay.
We need any further discussion, or no? We're good? Please call the vote.
Okay, Dr. Early,
You gotta do John. Made the motion.
Oh, I thought-
She was seconding my second.
I didn't know.
okay.
I made the motion. She supported it, she supported this.
Oh, okay, I got confused with all
Figure that
that.
out.
Okay.
Yeah, we're trying to do that on purpose, just so you know.
Trick you up.
Mr. Grunberg,
Yes.
Dr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes, Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Rayford,
Yes.
Mrs. Richardson, and Mrs. Grunberg.
Yes.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
Okay.